Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located around the world. Welcome to episode 15 of our podcast, People First, the Heart of Business, Season 2, the Executive Edition. I am Gabriela Castro Smith, a workforce strategy advisor with Trade in Motion. We support companies providing the right information and data to find, hire, and retain the right long-term talent for their operations. Today, we have an outstanding guest that I have known for many years when I was working in Mexico City. He is a knowledgeable, intellectual, and fun economic geologist. John Mark Staude, President and CEO of Riverside Resources. Welcome to the podcast, Juan Marcos. It's a privilege to interview you.
It's a real honor. You've been pursuing this podcast and doing it so well, and I've been following the great work you're doing. We meet at many conferences. It's a real honor to be on the show today with you.
Thank you, John Mark. I was very surprised about the Riverside Resources. You have 7 projects in Mexico and 3 in Canada.
We
Wow.
do, yes.
And how come? How did you arrive to have all these projects and working on them, and how you do to manage all these 7 projects?
For us, the first thing is where we come from, what we know. Myself, I've been in mining and exploration for almost 30 years. I used to work with the large mining companies, and that's helped because I worked in Mexico and in Latin America. And from that knowledge of my working in South America, my PhD in the study of gold and copper deposits of Sonora, Mexico, and Mexico has allowed us to develop a nice portfolio. Riverside has been going 20 years, 2 decades, and we've done 84 projects. Currently, the nice portfolio that we have in Mexico in stable places, high grades, good potential. I've also worked in Canada. I live in Canada now. I become a Canadian citizen as well as a US citizen, and have worked throughout parts of Canada for the last 20 years. And during that time, we built a portfolio. So yes, now we have the projects in Canada. Recently, the company split and we separated out some of our projects into a new company that we formed that I'm the chairman of. So we've been able to grow the business, divide the company up, and keep growing. It's been a really fun trip.
Wow. Yeah, it's since I know you, I see that you have a lot of fun on what you do. And that's very important to have fun when you do what you do, or even if it's work. Everybody should have fun, but that's another topic. And I would like to talk about the exploration business and the value creation. John Mark, when you think about the exploration business today, what does true value creation mean beyond simply discovering ounces in the ground?
It's so critical that we do mineral exploration, and what we do is we find projects, we create jobs, we build community. I'm so honored that I worked in a pueblo of mulattoes in Sonora, and now it has electricity. It now has paved roads. It now has community hospital and a vibrant city. And that's what we do is in exploration, we add value by creating new opportunities, by working in the communities. And the other thing is we do find resources that create national value. I worked in Mongolia, had the chance to do drilling. We were involved in the discovery of what's now called Oyu Tolgoi that Ivanhoe Mines built, and is over 70% of the gross domestic product of the entire country. These type of impacts really generate from exploration. The value that's created from the ground is kind of like a farmer, someone that goes out and builds in a housing and real estate. For us, finding those resources in the ground and then bringing them to market, but also as we do that, creating jobs, community, infrastructure, and leaving a great legacy has been such a key part of the mining industry. And I really appreciate your podcast to help to bring that out and explain to people that's part of the value add is what we do as a contribution.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the good things about mining is that give to community, help the community. As you said, many companies build hospitals, schools, they support the community greatly. And that's one of the beauties of mining. It's not only about uh, exploration, finding resources, it's also about helping the company to grow, to maybe kids to have a better education, to have a hospital in case the community gets sick or have a health issue. So I think that mining in general does a great job.
It does. So that's part of the value add, I think, in exploration. It really does. And the other thing from the value add, as you mentioned, education, is we do a lot of training and skills and things like that. And we work with different groups, so we're able to work on multiple different projects. I think the other value add that we do as well is in helping to make these people have the skills that they can go far beyond the exploration, key life skills and working skills. I've worked in Africa. Working in Africa, we developed projects. I've worked in Europe, and that's been a really great chance, but particularly in Latin America. And I think that, your podcast really helps bring that out, and it's so vital. So thanks for that question.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a positive relationship between the community, the stakeholders, and companies supporting. I've seen like a win-win situation for everyone and for the world too, because we need all these metals to produce many, almost everything. And another thing that I would like to touch in this podcast, John Mark, is the timelines, the science, the learning, and timelines. Do you think are about science and learning, not just reaching the final mining stage? Can you expand on this philosophy?
It's really important, exactly. So often people point out that it takes many, many years from a discovery to become a mine. In fact, there's all kinds of little steps along the way that create value and opportunity. So although it can take maybe as much as 20 years or longer from the date of finding a project and doing all the steps, but along the way, there's value created, there's jobs created, there's all kinds of infrastructure created. So I think that often people think that all we're doing is about the mining or then the reclamation of it, but in fact, no. The exploration stage is a vibrant opportunity to work with the community, work with First Nations, Indigenous groups within the different areas where we're working, doing education. And as we develop the project, we do lots of environmental studies. We study the birds, the plants, the water, all these different aspects to figure out what's happening and what's the potential. And then as we study the metallurgy, the recovery on the project, that again adds value as a key step. There's lots of drilling and work along the way. Each of that creates jobs, lots of business. For every one person working on a project, there's actually over 8 other people that are impacted and used and worked that have jobs because of it. So I think that this timeline, as people say, well, we're investing now and we have to wait till the end, 20 years or something to get paid back, is actually not correct. And in fact, there are many different points along the value chain where value is created, where gains are made. So that's what I'm thinking of, and that's what I find. And that's why I've stayed in the industry for so long, because it's been a lot of fun to be able to see all those different steps. And we having a portfolio in the company Riverside gives many different projects at different stages along that. Having little wins along the way is a really good way to add value for all the places we work.
I'm talking about technology in exploration. What advances in exploration technology are at this moment most transformative?
It's incredible. We're all talking about artificial intelligence, and I often talk about HI, human intelligence too, because using that, but we're using all kinds of new scientific tools. Some of the scientific tools are now able to come right out to the field with us. We can actually take a small, about the size of a hair dryer, an X-ray gun that's able to be able to put up to a rock and get a sense for what's in that rock, both mineralogically, what the minerals are, and also chemically, what the different elements are. So we can do science in that way. Also, we get a much faster assay than we would in the past, where we had to crush it up and send it to a laboratory. We can get a sense for it. Some of the new satellite technologies, not that we can see under the earth, but we can definitely see at the surface of the earth. And then the new geophysical techniques that we're
Yeah.
using, those are really helpful also to be able to see what's deeper. Again, we can't necessarily prove that there's an ore body or delineate the ore body, but we can see that there's some very significant anomaly, some feature there that could be an ore body, and then we drill and make the discoveries. Those are some of the scientific new innovations that are happening right now. It's really being helpful and quite transformative for exploration right now.
And if this technology now it's so advanced, why do you think that the new generation is not interested in mining as much as it was in previous generations?
Yeah, I think that's very correct. So, mining has been given a bad reputation or a bad name, in fact. But, as you look at this recording, you're looking at a computer, you're inside of a house, all of that has to be grown or it has to be mined. And that's where you get all the resources. If you drive a car, you need to have electricity or you have to have gasoline. All of this takes resources. And so we have to be mining and producing this. And I think that people, maybe as we become more urban, living in cities and really looking at it, we forget that where does it come from, what the opportunity is, and we assume that it comes from just magically or comes from somewhere else. Mining has great jobs. It can pay well. It creates wealth from nothing, from the ground. Not, it's really, really a true wealth creating industry. And so I think some people maybe haven't appreciated, but now maybe they will more with the metal prices becoming higher because the rarity and because we need them in order to grow, in order to develop, in order to have our GDP. It's so vital to have these resources. And so mining has gotten a bad reputation. That hurts the environment, or it's very difficult or very dirty, and it's a job we don't want to do. But in fact, there are ways to do it clean. We do work at that constantly. We're continually improving, and we are quite efficient in trying to do it in good ways and manage that. And we do a reclamation at the end, can cover it over, can kind of recontour the areas we're working, maybe use some of it for other purposing, repurposing pits and other things, makes it an asset rather than a liability.
Yeah, and also there are many, maybe there's a misunderstanding about mining, and people, the new generation, think that they are going to work the mine or and it's dirty, and but there are many different kind of jobs in the mining industry, not only being a miner. There are many uh, technology associated with the industry. For example, there are mines in Arizona, and they will be mining from a room, because what they are doing with the technology, there will be people working in a room remotely, moving all what has to be, all the machinery working in the area. So there are many different ways of working in the mining industry, and maybe the new generation has a very different uh, or had a different approach about what mining is. And I see that many that companies, my company too, we give presentations in high schools for students to understand what is the value of mining, what are the jobs that they can have. And because I think that we really don't know outside of the industry, we really don't know what mining is.
Yeah, and you bring up automation, and automation is a great asset. And you're correct that, newer skill sets, being able to run a computer, being able to use applications, being able to do gaming, and those type of different skills are actually quite helpful as we're working remotely in many mines now, as you mentioned, in Arizona and other places where we can remotely work inside of an air-conditioned control room and have the machines operating completely autonomously or maybe controlled with some type of manipulation, but they're actually programmed and able to operate, really makes it a good step is a new innovation and definitely more efficient, and we're using technology. So it's great. So mining is a really exciting field to be in. Great jobs, great pay. And nowadays, even better, and it continues, I think, into the future, we'll see that more. There's a bigger push, new technology and automation. So it's a really good, bright future mining to has.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. And do you mentor the new generation?
Yes, I do, and it's great. I used to be the youngest, and now I'm the oldest, and I have many mentees, and I'm just so blessed. And I'll be now going to the major conference called the Prospector Developer PDAC Conference, and I'll have tens of mentees attending there, people that have worked with me. Every day I have conversations with people. I used to be the youngest, now I'm kind of middle of the road or even older than many of them. And so they come to me and ask me different questions. And it's a real honor. I've been working in this industry as a focused career, and it's really paid well. It's been a good adventure and a lot of great travel. And I think that they see that as well. And their key steps along their own family lives with children and marriage and other things. And I'm glad to have those discussions as well, as I'm very lucky to have been able to stick with all of those things and make it all work. And it's really the mining is a great way to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And can you give us some examples about your way of mentorship and how you uplift the new generation that they get into the mining industry with confidence, happy to contribute?
Yeah, I think three key ways. One is communication, trying to always have an open door. Great to be on the podcast here and reach out and being available. I think the second is to try to make sure you set a standard so that you actually set as a role so people can follow you. And I do that. I go ahead and put out podcasts and have started off my John Marks Geo tutorial over 12 years ago and doing that on YouTubes and things like that, kind of just explaining what we do and things like that. I think the third is directly with individuals, really trying to go and help them to listen, to be available, but also seek them out. And so I'm constantly looking for who are the up and coming people and going and talking to them. And when people come and ask questions, I try to work with them and follow up myself. So proactively, so those would be three different ways that I actively and really welcome being a mentor. So I have mentors myself, people that are older, and even some people that are younger that are doing things that are helping me. It's part of a great network. And I think mining and the overall, this whole industry really is open to that. So it's a really great industry to be in the mineral exploration and mining.
And continue talking about people. Riverside operates in Mexico and Canada, but you have experience in other parts of the world. And how does working across borders shape your approach to teams, to talent, to communities? Because every country is different.
It is, and even inside of a country, different communities as well. Fundamentally, people are people, and that's a big part of it. But we also have very different cultures, and so we try to work with local groups everywhere we work. We work with local teams, and also those can work locally with the communities that we are, both for safety and also for positive impact, creation of jobs. So we have to do a lot of education. So we do a lot of training. We do a lot of crossovers, do a lot of different interactions so people can learn and have the overall a more international experience and perspective. I think the other thing that we do is we really like to support universities. We like to sponsor different programs and students. We work with people in education. working with the educators to make sure that we're growing in each of the places we work, a skilled workforce that'll carry on. We've been going 2 decades, 20 years as Riverside. So by doing that, we've had a lot of impact with a lot of schools and a lot of inputs. And so we definitely find that we try to work with the different cultures. And whenever I go, I try to work with local people to really get a flavor, understanding, and then try to educate maybe about a little more on the technical or science side. And they introduce concepts on the cultural and on the vocabulary and speaking side that's so important for me to learn as well. So it makes for a really great interaction and a positive business.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you measure trust and success in the communities?
I think one is the being invited back and having a good relationship. I think having open doors and having smiles rather than frowns. By being invited to be included and making sure that we have positive feedback and positive interactions that way. I think a second is that people choose to work with us, that people come and ask to work with us and see that we pay, that they're glad to work with us and we're a chosen employer for the people. I think the third thing is we make sure that we leave a good legacy so that when we come back, we don't see the places there's dirty or disfigured or anywhere mad or bad, but actually are good, clean, maybe didn't see that we were there at all. If you haven't noticed or just we were able to go through and not leave anything bad, then that's great. So I think those are three of the different ways that we can measure ourselves with community.
Okay. So we will be closing our podcast soon, but I have two more questions for you. The first one, if you look 10 years ahead, what will define successful exploration companies?
Definitely the community. Secondly, having found projects that are able to move ahead, potentially developing mines and creating the jobs and really making those happen. And the third is value. That is actually spinning off enough capital and money that the local area is prosperous and that prosperity can go way beyond the mine, way beyond the project into creating education, families, good health. So those are key things that are about success. We know how to do it in the past with companies that have had successes and built things. And I think in the next 10 years, we have a couple of projects that we're very excited about that could do that. So it's going to be a lot of fun the next decade here, working with the communities and seeing these projects become mines.
Sure. And what legacy do you want Riverside to leave? Not just in discoveries, but in people, partnerships, and impact.
We've been doing that and it's so wonderful. We have over 10 CEOs and companies that used to work with Riverside and they've learned and worked with Riverside and gone on to grow and build their own businesses. We've helped create 7 new companies out of Riverside, and those companies have grown to be much bigger than Riverside in what they've done, worked on. And that's success for us to see things kind of like a parent where your children can be more prosperous and grow even greater than what you did is a wonderful feeling. So for Riverside, our legacy that has projects, community inviting us back, and the success and the projects that we've done grow to be much bigger than us. That's a great place, and that makes me happy to see that could be the potential future legacy for Riverside.
Yeah, wow. Great. So thank you very much, John Mark, for being part of our podcast, for being my guest. I am honored, really. As I said, I know you for many, many years, more than 20, I think. And I've seen how Riverside has been growing, how you help the communities when I was in Mexico. And it's wonderful mining companies doing a great job for their people. So thank you very much. I don't know if you want to say something to close our podcast.
Thank you so much. Really an honor to be on your show. You're doing a great contribution, Gabriela, for the industry and sharing these different with CEOs and executives. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. And for our audience attending the PDAC convention, John Mark will be there and I will be there. So contact us. Thank you very much.